Hello and welcome everyone. It's wonderful having you all on this lovely day, and I hope the day has started well for you. Now before I go ahead with this session on report writing, there is something beautiful that I encountered the other day when I was browsing over the pages of the newspaper. Now we have this famous luminary in literature, Francis Bacon, and he had written these beautiful lines: reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. Right? So I'm sure all of us, we wish to excel at all these levels, and therefore today my topic would be report writing, right? Wherein which we'll see the definitions which would tell you what report writing actually is, the purpose behind writing reports, parts of a report, characteristics of a good report, types of business reports, in which we'll be doing feasibility reports and investigative reports. Right? Investigative reports are also known as interpretative reports. Right? So the other name of investigative reports is interpretative reports. Now, when we come to report writing, now over a period of time, we've already learned that there are several business correspondences that a businessman indulges in, right? And the fact of running any business is to provide information, right? And accordingly, the businessman has several instruments at his command through which he imparts information to people. He also imparts information as well as solicits information, and report writing is one such vital instrument, right? Now, report writing is an essential skill that needs to be owned over a period of time, especially as business personals. You need to command this skill, because writing clear, concise reports is very, very crucial for any business activity. Now, an effective, well-written report, it can do wonders. Now, what are these wonders? It can drive sales, it can improve and better team relations and team building, right? It can also help a lot in financial operations. Now, reports can also alert management to opportunities for business growth, identify areas where greater efficiency can be realized, and establish cohesive business procedures, right? So report writing has a great deal of responsibility in imparting information about the organization to its internal audience as well as to its external audience, right? Internal audience would be its own set of employees, whereas external audience would be its shareholders, its customers, investors, bankers, media houses, government agencies, and so on and so forth. Fine. Now, let's take a look at these definitions. The dictionary defines report as an account given on a particular matter, especially in the form of an official document, after thorough investigation or consideration by an appointed person or body. Now, famous communication theorists, as we have with us, C.A. Brown and John Michel, have defined report as a communication from someone who has some information to someone who wants to use this information. It is also said to be a written statement of facts of a situation, project, process, or test, and how these facts were ascertained. What was the procedure involved in determining these facts, their significance, the conclusions that have been drawn from them, inclusive of the recommendations made for future course of action. Now, report definitely aims at doing something concrete, not only adding to the pile of written documents, but also it helps a lot in framing one's own course of action, plan of action. Reports can either be drafted by an individual or a committee or team, depending on the nature of the situation analysis, and the number of people involved. Like the other day, I was giving you the example of the committees of our own college, right? We have our various committees, attendance committee, cultural committee, right? And over a period of time, we also write reports regarding the activities undertaken by these committees, right? So reports can either be written by the entire committee, where the members contribute their ideas, their findings, their recommendations, or it can be individual, depending on the situation, depending on the issue at hand. Now, purpose of report writing. Right now, one has to be very clear with the purpose you have in mind before you attempt writing a report. Business reports are written to communicate. Sometimes they are written as a means to attract investors to your organization. Business reports are also written for employees so that they can be kept abreast of recent developments or any innovation that has taken place. Now, there are various areas where report writing really helps. Let's take a look at it. Problem solving. Now, many business reports are written to illustrate a specific problem within the company. These types of reports present a problem along with solutions to help rectify them, correct these problems. This type of report is often directed at employees. An example problem that a business report may address for employees would be a situation in which the company may be looking to downsize. Now, we all understand the meaning of downsize, which means that if at all there are 50 employees, they'll be again sifted and shortlisted, and only 30 would be retained by the company, whereas others would be asked to leave. At times it happens in times of crisis, when an organization is either going through a major change or crisis. This generally happens. Now, this affects employees, won't it? Because out of 50 employees, 30 would still have their jobs, whereas 20 would have to leave. They'll be jobless. But then for an organization to run, you really need to look at the situation from all angles. So the business report might state the standing of the business and why it may be forced to downsize. The report may also enlist the help of employees to find ways to avoid the downsize. Now, if at all the employees are interested in retaining their jobs and also helping out to their own colleagues, they may be asked for their suggestions so as to prevent this retrenchment that would happen, and accordingly this report may contain those details. Let's take a look at the second kind of reports, financial reporting. Now, a business report might be written from a financial statement perspective. This type of business report will be aimed at advisors. To an extent, it can be used to inform employees about the financial standing of the company as well. A business report may be presented for this purpose at the end of the fiscal year. Fiscal year is the financial year. Like financial reporting, we have marketing reports. A business report can be important when setting up marketing strategies. Before entering a new market or targeting consumers, a company may write a business report that an advertising agency can use to help devise marketing strategy. There may also be a separate report written to help obtain financing for a media push. Now, after taking a look at all these reports, whether targeted for problem solving or financial reporting or marketing reports, it is very, very important to understand that reports serve a huge purpose in the area of decision making, planning and evaluation, right? Now, moving further, a report must be logically constructed and presented in an accepted format. It is important to establish immediately the exact purpose of the report. Therefore, it is essential to ask oneself few questions before one starts to compile it. Now, what are these questions? Very, very obvious questions one should ask oneself before drafting a report. Who is going to use it? Who is going to be the user of this report? What is it intended to achieve? Now, what would be the outcome of this report, and how will it be used? So, these three questions are the ones which an individual or a committee, when drafting a report, should question themselves and accordingly pen down their observations. Now, parts of a report. Parts of a report are title, terms of reference, procedure, findings, recommendations, followed by signature. Title. When I talk of title, definitely any title should be indicative of the content it should establish an understanding between the content and what the reader is expecting. So, the title should be indicative of the content. Terms of reference includes by whom the report has been requested, the precise area to be covered, what is intended to be the outcome of the report, and establishing the limits of the report. Procedure. Now, when you make your own findings, there can be different procedure. You can either conduct a survey or you can do an experiment, right? And accordingly, you draft your report. Findings, what have you discovered after using that particular procedure? Those are your findings. Recommendations. Now, recommendations here need to be very, very objective. Instead of making vague, unrealistic recommendations, the committee or individuals should really work towards making concrete recommendations so that they can be implemented and easily executed, followed by a signature. Now, when I said that a report can be written by an individual or a committee, it is very important to understand that when an individual writes a report, at the end of the report, he needs to put in his or her signatures. Whereas, when the committee writes a report, the signatures are to be put on the report in a certain order. Now, what is this order? For example, let's take a look at the attendance committee. Now, the head of the attendance committee is Netra ma'am, right? So, she would be the first one to sign on this report, being the coordinator, being the convener of the committee, followed by other members depending on their seniority basis, right? So, if Krupa ma'am has served for more than 2 years in the attendance committee in comparison to Megha ma'am, who's just served a year in the committee, Krupa ma'am would sign after Netra ma'am, followed by Megha ma'am. So, these signatures also follow a certain chronological order. Now, we've spoken so much about a report, but what makes a report worthy of reading and an interesting read? So, let's browse through these points. Characteristics of a good report. A good report must have the following characteristics. First, definitely a title, all right, but not a random title, rather a title which can indicate about what the content is. So, a title indicative of the content. Precision. Precision here would mean one should have clarity of purpose as to why that report is written. Accurate and relevant facts. Now, you can't beat around the bush, you can't make up your own stories. You should have your facts and figures on your fingertips when drafting a report. That makes a report really authentic and credible. It should be reader oriented, right? You should always be mindful of who your reader is, and accordingly you should frame your report and try using simple language, right? Short and crisp sentences rather than long sentences which ultimately land up confusing the reader, right? So, you need to be very clear about your content, keep it brief rather than your report running into pages and pages, which would make it really boring. And like I said earlier, objectivity of recommendation. Your recommendations should be very, very concrete and feasible. They shouldn't sound vague. So, Let's take a look at it again. A good report must have the following characteristics: title, precision, accurate and relevant facts, reader-oriented, simple, correct and unambiguous language, clarity and brevity, objectivity of recommendation. All right. At this point in time, I'm really hungry looking at these pairs. Right here at the title of this slide, types of business reports, various colors, various shapes. Why I chose them was I just wanted to drive across the point that reports are of various types depending on certain factors. Now, what are these factors? On the basis of procedure, reports can be categorized into two types: informal reports and formal reports, right? Both can be solicited or unsolicited, but informal reports are generally written in the form of a letter when you are reporting of an event that has occurred or something that you have handled really well to your senior. So they are written in a very informal manner. Therefore, they are called informal reports. Formal reports definitely need to be written in a prescribed format. You need to follow a format when you are attempting to write a formal report. Second factor that comes in is on the basis of function. Now, a report can be informative or interpretative. Now, let me check if you really remember and if you are really focusing. Interpretative reports are also called by another name: investigative reports, right? Informative reports, as the word itself suggests, they aim to inform people about certain changes, about certain developments, right? Now, on the basis of function, reports can be categorized into, again, two types: informative reports and interpretative reports. Interpretative reports are also known as investigative reports. Now, informative reports, the word itself, informative reports, as the word suggests, they aim to inform people either about some changes or developments or modifications, right, either in business procedures or strategies. So, the purpose of these reports is to impart information, whereas interpretative reports are more serious types. They determine a problem, they investigate the case, reasons maybe of declining sales of a company. So, in that case, they are interpretative in nature and are also known as investigative reports. Coming down to the third factor, on the basis of frequency. Now, this is very, very common. Either reports are written at frequent intervals to follow a certain procedure of operations. So, they can either be divided into periodic reports or special reports. Periodic reports would be more of a routine kind, regular kinds of reports, whereas special reports would cover a special event or an occasion that has happened in the organization. Fourth one, on the basis of the nature of the subject to be dealt with. Now, the first under this is problem determining report. Like I said, a problem is, various causes are analyzed and a problem is determined in this report. Fact finding report, it actually strives to skim the facts if they are really true, or if there is a strand of any exaggeration into it. Performance report and technical report. Feasibility reports. I find this slide really interesting, looking at that mango, right? I don't know if you can really relate to this, but feasibility means possibility. Possibility of a proposition, whether it can happen or it cannot happen given under certain circumstances. Now, a little away from this topic, out of this mango you can make mango pickle, mango ice cream, mango cake, mango shake, whatever you wish to make, depending on the ingredients at hand. Similarly, These reports are submitted by appointed committees after studying the pros and cons of a new move under consideration by the management of an organization. Here, the management perceives the need of something new and then appoints a committee to find out whether the change is necessary or how it could be incorporated. The committee makes a detailed study of the new proposition, whether it be starting of a new facility or service, and submits its findings and recommendations in its report. Right? Now, for example, we wish to open our college wishes to open a stationery shop in the campus. Right? So, probably ma'am would invite certain people to be a part of a committee. She'll form a committee. She'll make someone the head of that committee, the coordinator who would coordinate all the efforts in compiling a report, and she would say that just go and see if actually we can start running a stationery shop in our premises. So now this group of people, they'll start their procedure. They may go and see other stationery shops in other colleges. How are they run, right? Who's handling these shops? If at all our students can be given a chance to do part-time jobs in these shops, right? So they will look at this particular proposition from various angles. They'll follow a certain procedure, maybe meet the student council of these colleges, maybe meet the student council of our own college and see if our students are really interested in this proposition, right? So they'll adopt a certain procedure and they'll report their findings to the management along with their list of recommendations, just to see if at all opening a stationery shop in our college is possible or not. Right? Should we keep the idea of opening the shop or should we do away with the idea of opening the shop? Right? And accordingly, a feasibility report is written. Now for this, I am carrying samples of a feasibility report. You are already assembled in your study crews. I would give each crew a sample. Please browse through it. Feasibility report, how this report is written. Now I think each group has got a sample. Yes. So please browse through this sample, right? The group members, out of few, one can read what is written in the report. The others can pay attention to what is written, and later you can discuss on the elements of this report, right? In the meanwhile, I'll just have an interaction with this group. Okay, now when you take a look at this report, is there a title mentioned anywhere?
Yes.
Okay, great. What is the title? Report of the committee to explore the possibilities of starting bookstall and stationery stores in the college. Okay. So how is this report written? Is it written in the form of a circular, notice, or a letter? It is written in the form of a letter. How can you say it's written in the form of a letter? Yes, it's addressed to the principal of the college, because probably she is the one who has formed the committee and who's asked this committee to work on this possibility, whether a stationery shop can be whether a stationery shop can be opened in the campus, cannot be opened in the campus, right? And therefore it is addressed to her. It's in the form of a letter. Bingo. As I move to the other group, I hope you're browsing through this report. What are the other components that you can see? Okay, the letterhead, then it is addressed to a principal. What are other components?
Terms of report.
Terms of reference.
Very good. Terms of reference is the first element.
Procedure followed.
Procedure followed. Findings
And recommendations.
and recommendations. Now, does the report end there with recommendations? No. How does it end? Okay, there is this complimentary end, yours faithfully. And then who signed the report? The principal?
No, as a second.
Why would the principal sign? Because the report is addressed to her. So she is not the one who's signing it. It's the secretary or the convener or the chairperson or the coordinator, the head of that particular committee. Now, is it only that head who's signed? No, there are other members also who've put in their signatures on the report in a chronological order. Like I said, depending on their seniority in the group, right? So please browse through this report, see what is written there. All right, now Tehseen, can you please read what is written in terms of reference?
Terms of reference, a committee comprising of Professor P.P. Das, Professor M. Chogle and Professor R. Pandit was appointed by a resolution of the board at its meeting conducted on 5th January 2016 to look into the possibilities of starting a bookstall cum stationery store in the college premises. It was further resolved that Professor M. Chogle be appointed as chairman of the committee and the committee be asked to submit its report within 3 months.
All right, now we all have understood that terms of reference basically entails as to how the committee was formed, when the committee was formed, who was made the head of the committee, what task was the committee given, and in what duration the committee was expected to submit its report. Now, here the question is whether a stationery shop or a Xerox shop can be opened in the college premises. So, a committee of 3 people was formed, someone was made a head of that committee, and it was in one of the staff meetings that it happened, and they were given a duration of 3 months to deploy the procedure they want to deploy in finding whether a stationery shop can be opened or not, and accordingly they have to draft the procedure followed, the findings and the recommendations. Right? So, are you clear with terms of reference? Great. Now, as we move ahead, we've all understood what terms of reference is. Now, moving ahead to the second component of this report, what is it? Procedure followed. Now, Jessica, can you read it loudly?
The committee visited 4 well-established colleges of Mumbai listed attached and had discussed with the principal, professors and general secretaries of the student council of these colleges. The committee also visited and observed the working of the stores of these colleges. Later, the committee had 2 meetings with the student council of a college when the matter was discussed there.
All right. Now, they definitely deployed a certain procedure to ascertain whether this particular proposition can be considered or not. Now, as discussed earlier, the procedure that they followed was they visited other colleges where they had a stationery shop. They also spoke to students. They also spoke to members of the student council, to the teachers, to other support members of the college, and found out if at all this particular proposition would fetch them any benefit or not. Right? So, the second component, as we've understood through this report, is procedure followed. Someone please cancel the call. Cancel the call. All right. Now, we have already browsed through 2 elements of this report. First was terms of reference. Second was procedure followed. Are we clear with this? Great. Now, what is the third element in Q? Findings. Definitely, you already know who has directed the report, right? Who's formed the committee? What are these members doing? what is the procedure that they have adopted in finalizing whether the proposition can be realized or not. And now finally they are writing their observations, their findings. Amit, can you read the findings?
It is to be noticed that only college book stall available in this area is near the railway station, which is 2 kilometers away. The proprietor doesn't stock sufficient number of books and insist of.
All right, good. So in the findings they've mentioned that the nearest shop that is there, somewhere adjacent to their campus is at least a kilometer away. So it would be really beneficial for students as well as teachers if they open a shop in the premises. Moreover, the proprietor of that particular shop doesn't stock enough stationery items that would help the students. Therefore, it becomes imperative for the college to take action and have its own stationery shop or stall in the premises, right? So now we are done with 3 components of this report, of the feasibility report, starting with terms of reference, procedure followed and findings. Great. Now we move on to the 4th element, the final element of this feasibility report. Now what is this final element? Recommendations. Now the committee made certain recommendations. Now what are these recommendations? Rakhi, can you read?
Yes.
Please read it loudly.
A book stall cum stationery store should be opened at the earliest. Then the second one, this could be managed by a committee of teachers and students. Third one, the space near the lift on the ground floor could be utilized for the construction of a room for the purpose. Then fourth one, part-time employment can be thus provided to needy students.
All right, now if you browse through the recommendations of this report, this committee has given some really concrete and beneficial recommendations, starting with the first recommendation, that realizing the importance of having a bookstores in the campus itself, the management should immediately take an action and have it at the earliest, right? Second is that this particular bookstall can be managed collaboratively by teachers and students alike, so that both teachers and students, they take the ownership of this bookstall, they see how it is to be run. So it has to be both the side, both ways, the efforts are to be there, teachers as well as students. Third, place. Now they also identified a place in the campus where this particular bookstore can be opened, and they finally identified a space near their lift, that space can be used in the construction of this bookshop. And finally, a wonderful recommendation that the committee has made is students can also be given part-time jobs, right? And out of whatever remuneration they get, they can either pay their fee, they can either pay their tuition fee, right? They can make use of it, right? So we've now understood the feasibility report.
Yes.
Are you clear with it?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's move to the second type of business report, which is investigative report. Now I really like this Sherlock Holmes lady who's there with the lens trying to investigate something, probably a fruit. Are you hungry? Yes. All right. So this investigative report, these reports are submitted by appointed committees after studying the different aspects of a problem being faced by the management of an organization. Here, the management perceives a problem or a difficult situation and then appoints a committee to find out reasons for the problem being faced and how they can correct or rectify it. They can overcome this problem. The committee makes a detailed study of the situation or issue at hand, whether it be losses or unrest being suffered by a particular section of the organization, and submits its findings and recommendations in its report. Now this report basically aims at getting to the root cause of a problem. The problem can be of unrest amongst the employees, right? The problem can be of declining sales of a particular product of a company, right? So they get to the root cause of this problem, they make a detailed study of it, and then they inform the management of their findings, also supplemented by their set of recommendations which can help in overcoming this issue or problem. Now, along with your feasibility reports, the sample of feasibility reports, another sample of investigative reports is attached. I would request the crew to please browse through it. Please browse through the sample of the investigative report given to you. Got some clarity now on how investigative reports are drafted, what are the reasons which prompt the management to form a committee to investigate a particular problem or identify a particular cause which may lead to that problem, and how this committee helps the management in overcoming that particular issue or problem. Right? Now with this, our report writing comes to an end, but we've often heard of the saying that anything free fills you with glee, right? So report writing definitely comes to an end, but along with it, I would certainly like to share certain tips on business proposals, right? When I talk of proposals, suddenly, I don't know why, but when I look at your faces, my mind goes on to that Valentine's Day celebration where many of you expect some proposals, but let's not stick to those, and let's move ahead with these business proposals. Now, according to Encyclopedia of Business Terms, a business proposal is a written document sent to a prospective client in order to obtain a specific job. It is actually to pitch in your sales, to convince that client in some manner that he hires your services, right? You get some business. This may also involve being the vendor for certain products. This document explains to your prospective client the service that you are offering and how the proposition makes business sense for the client. Now here you don't have to reveal to the client that what is the profit that you are making. He is not interested in that, right? He is majorly interested in how is he benefiting from this business proposal. Besides laying claim on being the most commendable person to complete the job. Now there are two things that you need to provide your client. First is how can it benefit him or her, and second is why are you the right person to be hired for this particular job. So you need to really assert your convincing abilities here so as to get business from him. Moving ahead, proposals may be solicited or unsolicited. In an unsolicited proposal, the idea you are selling is your brainchild, whereas in the solicited proposal, a request is sent by your prospective client and you are responding to the same, right? Unsolicited, you are doing it on your own, you are initiating because you have conceptualized an idea, you feel like offering your services, right? Whether the person, the buyer has asked for it or not, whereas in a solicited one, you get a request from the person who wishes to utilize your services and accordingly you send him your proposal. So are we clear on this? Any questions? All right, moving ahead. Steps for drafting a business proposal. Okay, now the first one, you might have observed that either ma'am has suddenly slept while making the slide. That is why she's written research, 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 right? But it's not so. When I say research, 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 it really means you need to get to the depth as to why you're making that business proposal, how is that business proposal going to help your client and you as the seller or the businessman, right? So for this, you really need to do a lot of market research, a lot of self-research. Also coupled by, you need to determine the purpose of your plan, the business plan, create a company profile, document all aspects of your business, which may also include reviews from other customers, right? When you go to a site and you want to buy something from that particular site, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Very good. The reviews that you receive from other people, the reviews that that particular service or product has received from other people, the feedback. When you go to a movie, what is the first thing that you do before booking a movie ticket? You see how many stars has that movie, what is the rating of that movie, which is again dependent on public feedback. So here also, document all aspects of your business. If you've got something in writing, an appreciation note, maybe something on your website, please document all that, because that will help you in pitching your sales. Have a strategic marketing plan in place, make it adaptable based on your audience, and explain why you care. Now, very, very important, the objective for sending a business proposal is not only getting business in hand, but also making sure that your customer stays loyal to you in the future years to come. When will it happen? When you will really offer something unique, something indispensable, so that he can never think of replacing you with someone else. And for that, you really need to show that you are not only behind his money, but you are also behind his satisfaction. He should be satisfied with your service. You really need to show that you genuinely care. It should not be put in a very, very artificial manner or a pressing manner where the other person starts feeling that you are probably only counting those green notes in your dreams. Rather, it should be because you want to ensure that proper service is provided and your service is appreciated, and that person who is at that point in time your one-time customer becomes your lifelong associate, right? So that should be the spirit behind writing a business proposal. Components of a business proposal. Now, like the report had certain elements, certain components to it. Can we quickly revise what were the components? A title, terms of reference, procedure followed, findings and recommendations, right? So those were the parts of a report. Now coming down to the components of a business proposal, these would include a title page, current situation of your business, goals, what are the goals that you have placed for yourself, proposed methodology, time and cost, qualifications, which includes not only your basic qualifications, but also why should you be considered an expert in offering that service? What is that X factor that you have in your kitty which other people don't have, right? So qualifications followed by benefits. Is it benefit to the businessman? When you do business, do you only talk about yourself? It's benefit to the client, the customer you are offering your service to. So I hope you've gained some clarity on report writing and business proposals. Now in the next session, we shall in detail see how a business proposal is written. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a great day.